History News 8, we've passed several tragic and adventurous stories down over these long years, and now they will be passed down to you by me, of course. Let me tell you the legend of the ghost cow. Whoops, sorry, getting off topic. I'll try not to let my imagination run off with me. Never mind, I'll get back to that story later. Our first story is why the Pilgrims left Europe. Some pilgrims were harassed, fined, and even sent to jail because they didn't follow the Church of England's teachings. So they fled to the Dutch Netherlands to practice their own religion. They wanted real bad to go establish a farming village in the northern part of the Virginia colony. And they wanted to live under English government rather than their current one. Next segment is, what was the journey like across the ocean on the Mayflower? The Mayflower was a cargo ship rented by investors. The Speedwell, on the other hand, was bought by the investors. The Speedwell was a smaller and faster ship. The first time the voyagers set sail, it was with both boats. Twice they turned back to England because the Speedwell leaked. 11 passengers from the Speedwell boarded the Mayflower, and 20 returned to London. On September 16th, 1620, which was just 128 years since Columbus first discovered America, I recommend you taking out a book from the library if you're in suspense about who he is. A group of 102 pilgrims, including 36 children and 30 crew members, set sail on the Mayflower for a long voyage to the New World, which is present-day America. Many folks were leaving loved ones behind and were risking their lives on this dangerous journey. Fun fact, 70 men and women were actually strangers seeking wealth. The captain was Christopher Jones. On the ship, even in good weather, the conditions upon the Mayflower were unbearable. The journey was not comfortable. The passengers were forced to stay in their cabins. They only had hard bread, dried peas, oatmeal, salted fish, and salted beef to eat. Some passengers immediately became violently seasick. There was not much privacy. There were only small chamber pots. There were only small containers called chamber pots in place of toilets. They may have worn the same thing the whole journey. There were damaging crosswinds. Sometimes they only traveled 2 miles per hour. One baby had been born during the 9 weeks on the ship. Some pilgrims were starting to give up, and then they finally spotted land on the 9th week. After 66 days, the Mayflower arrived in Plymouth, New England, on November 11th, 1620, at 2 in the morning. It's what life was like in the New World. Most of the able men were exploring the area to find a suitable place to settle. Hunters wanted to know the locations of Native Americans so that they would know where to settle and where not to. They finally found 6 Native Americans and a dog. Fun fact, the Pilgrims pronounced KN words as cotton, as in knife or knop. In the first couple months, there were storms, wolves, etc. But as the weeks passed, they got used to it. Many colonists fell ill, probably suffering scurvy or pneumonia. 2 to 3 people died each day during the first 2 months on land. 52 people out of the 102 pilgrims survived the first year. The children filled in for the adults, or did their work when they were sick. Because the Native Americans were there, the pilgrims felt they needed to be armed and wear armor, always. Their armor included a helm, which is now called a helmet, a breastplate, a musket, and a bandolier, which is a pocket belt for holding ammunition. They also had a backsword, or cutlass, handy, which was a backsword, which was a sword with one cutting edge. They built a fort in the year 1622 and called it a mount. Their fort was a small military building with openings to fire their cannons through. Their cannons fired 1.5 miles. They also used their fort as a meeting house, a Sabbath house, a courthouse, and as you know, a defensive site. They also called it a blockhouse. The men on duty watched from the mount for fires that might happen into the village and could see into the bay for oncoming enemy ships. Famous pilgrims. Firstly, there was Captain Standish, who was the military leader. Secondly, there was the first baby boy born on the Mayflower's parents, who were William and Susanna White. They named their baby boy Peregrine, which meant traveling far away or pilgrim. And now, about that ghost cow story.